Today I wanted to discuss something I've been reflecting on. Oh, Voosh reflecting on in my life. I first noticed it when I started playing competitive TF2, but it's kind of picked up and become a kind of natural problem that I've been looking for a remedy for. And I think I found it, but also it's still there. So it's mostly the challenge of communication and dissonance in being heard and respected, not just in game, but as I was saying, in life. Like everyone, when, I started playing competitive TF2 for the first time, God, that's like a decade ago, you're not immediately handed the team leading role. You might be unprepared to make tryouts, you might not make it, and you might end up just having to lead a team. Pugs are usually the starting point for most people. However, some people end up being forced to make a team because they just don't get picked up. I eventually did that, not to say I didn't make it onto a few teams. But at the time, I was pretty quiet. I didn't need to say much. On the first Highlander team I played on, I was mostly mute, only calling out damage. On my first Sixes team, I played Medic, UGC Iron Medic. And I'm still mad about it because we never got our badges, thanks Komori. So yes, I was a Medic main. I played Medic on a UGC Iron team many, many moons ago. Mute as a mouse. Interacting with people I ironically still know, but have not interacted with in the same way ever again. Rambling aside, you eventually do end up in this team leading position, the team captain, the main caller, the position where you're basically the most knowledgeable, and it becomes important for you to call the shots of what your combo, flank, whatever is doing in the game. The gist of main calling was basically relaying everything. What your combo's doing, what you're going to do, what your flank should do, hearing, receiving information, and making the decision. Doing this for a while, I started to notice things and had what I'd call an epiphany beyond the usual, oh, I suck moments when you get out DM'd. I realized that one of the most important elements of an organized, competitive environment is discipline, but mostly respect. These two elements define the difference between that chaos and coordination in the game. And they're especially crucial when you're on a team and when you're a team captain of trying to lead other people. What I struggled with the most wasn't making good calls or reading the game. I have some teammates, I'm sure, that would contest that, but it was getting people to listen to me. At first, I thought it was just bad luck. It was miscommunication. Maybe my mic's gain was off. Maybe I was mute. Maybe my team didn't trust me because I wasn't good enough yet. Or maybe they were distracted. But as time went on, I began to notice a pattern, as we all do, our pattern-seeking brains. It wasn't just in Team Fortress 2 anymore. It was in other games. It was in school. It was at work. And even just talking to friends, I often felt like a radio that people would just tune out. It reminded me of another problem I had around the same time: communication. The issue is the reason I use scripts instead of speaking off the cuff naturally, if that wasn't obvious. I have to write down what I say because I end up mumbling and stumbling around with uhs and oohs. The ability to articulate my thoughts is, at the moment, only possible through paper, keyboard, screen, or pen. The slack in my ability to communicate with others, as if it were unnecessary, was something I encountered early on while playing Sixes and Highlander, right? It all ties back to each other. It just felt unnecessary. My damage was always being seen, but it wasn't being heard, even when I tried to say something about it. So I did speak up and tried talking about it, but either I was talking too much, too little, or my voice just didn't seem to demand attention. Over the years, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on why this happens, and I've come to realize that communication is far more complex than simply speaking words. Let's start with the start of that, articulation. Something my past mentors, these old ancient mentors in Team Fortress 2, taught me, and told me often, was that how you say something matters just as much as what you say. If you're main calling in the middle of a match, right, your team needs clear, confident instructions, which can make the difference between a successful push and a team wipe. But if your team is hesitant, rushed, or unclear, it plants doubt in their minds. They'll question whether they should follow you, even subconsciously. I learned that articulation isn't just about enunciation. It's about aligning what you're saying with what you're thinking and feeling. If your subconscious doesn't believe in the words you're saying, your voice loses a certain quality, a kind of unspoken confidence that makes people want to listen to you. For example, think about the phrase, "the cat died." Depending on how you say it, "the cat died," "the cat died," "the cat died." Those three words can convey grief, indifference, or even sarcasm. Communication is as much about tone and delivery as it is about content. Another obvious factor is volume, the mic gain, as I was saying earlier. I've always struggled with either being too quiet or too loud. Sometimes I'd give a critical call in a game only to realize no one heard me. Other times I'd overcompensate and come across as overbearing. It's not a gaming issue as much as it's something in real life that can affect people. People's reactions often depend on how they perceive your voice. Too soft, they assume you lack confidence. Too loud, they might find you abrasive. Striking the right balance, that in-between, is always an ongoing challenge. Not just for me, but I'm assuming other people. Let's get back to that initial bit on respect of the two. Sometimes it's not that people don't hear you, it's that they don't want to listen. Respect isn't automatic, it's earned. And earning respect, whether in a match of Team Fortress 2 or in real life, requires more than just making the right calls. It requires understanding and discernment of the people you're working with, building trust, showing that you value what they're saying, their comms, everything, as much as your own. I thought I was going insane at times thinking about this, so I asked a good friend of mine who made it further up that competitive ladder than I ever did, or wanted to. And I wanted to see what he had to say about this topic. We talked about it before when we both played together, like many moons ago, but this is what he had to say recently. When I came back to the game, I was determined to progress quickly. So I spent a lot of time outside scrims with my teams, reviewing demos, maps, and discussing strategies seriously. This approach built a serious time is now rapport, encouraging everyone to pay attention in-game rather than tuning out like in casual environments. That kind of team focus takes effort, but it's easier when everyone is already committed, which is why I enjoyed playing with my team so much. Everyone was always trying their hardest. I think in competitive, I often wondered if my teammates' lack of attention was a reflection of me or something else. Did they think I wasn't good enough? Was my voice too passive? Or was it simply that my presence didn't demand attention more than the wallpaper behind their computers? These questions stayed with me, and still do, a long time after I stepped away, and they've shaped how I approach communication in every part of my life now. Over time, I've come to accept that not everyone is willing to listen to you. Coworkers, bosses, friends, peers. This faint leadership, it's not about controlling everyone. It's about guiding those who are willing to follow. And sometimes the problem isn't you. It's the situation. It's the person receiving. Some people won't respect you, no matter what you do, no matter the context, whether they are willing or unconscious. Trying to force their respect will only waste your energy. Instead, focus on finding people who value yourself for who you are, whether it's friends, colleagues, teammates, or even worse, low open ringers. The right people will hear you as you hear them. To this day, I still dream of playing one final season of competitive TF2, not for the vain argument that this is how the game should be played, but simply because I find the game mode of sixes just fun. That all too familiar feeling about the camaraderie, the challenge of kicking sandbagging buttholes and total noob death, the general thrill of working together as a team in the ultimate team shooter game. Playing in such an organized environment feels like a D&D campaign online, in the Team Fortress way, where everyone has a role and the outcome depends on your collective efforts. But even when I ring for pugs or scrims or a pug scrim, right, whatever, I sometimes encounter that same old struggle. The same old struggles. It's a reminder that growth is always a process and not a destination. In the end, communication, respect, both two sides of the same coin. To lead effectively, you need both. And to earn both, you need humility, self-awareness, and the willingness to keep learning. Whether you're making a call in a high-stakes match or speaking up in a meeting, remember that being heard starts with believing in yourself, and the rest will follow. Do you ever notice the same thing? As we get older, communication gets easier, but there are still those outlying moments. Do you ever have those? When you're in the middle of a room, kind of a deja vu feeling, when you feel like you're in third person, recognizing the same pattern problems you've had since however old you were. I'd love to hear it. Thanks for listening as always. Take care and beware.